So it's a completely hand-built frame, uses 1.25" tubing. No fuel tank, you'll notice. The fuel tank is actually under the engine in a triangular section down there. It's a 990 some cc Briggs motor, Briggs V-twin. It's got some short little pipes on it, makes a lot of noise. It's got a Stromberg carb, pretty cool little filter screen. It's got a Dwayne Ballard seat. I'm embarrassed how dirty it is. Dwayne is the man. So you can see underneath of it. CVT, automatic, transmission, K-Tech controls. We're going to go ahead and polish all that stuff up. It's 12-point nuts all over the place. The battery, there's the gas fill there. The battery is hydro dipped to look like burl wood, as well as all the side covers and the clutch pieces. The front shock is also dipped to look like burl wood. It's got a leaf spring rear suspension, old 32 Ford taillight, and black bike wheels, aluminum wheels, and a 330 Avon. Everything steel was fabricated by Chop Smitty, powder coating by QC out of Detroit area. And we call it She Wins, because it looks like a Schwinn bicycle. That was the whole idea of this build. Uses a sprocket rotor, sprotor. So the calipers are here. Got a little leather protector from chain. I mean, this thing's pretty high tech. These bolts back here that bolt this rear section on, we made the bolts. They're stainless 12-pointers. Again, K-Tech controls. She wins. All right, as promised, gonna work on the custom motorcycle. So this is a bike I built back before we came to Hawaii, so it would have been about 2011. Total custom, uses a Briggs & Stratton engine, believe it or not, 996, 93 cc, something like that. So it's a big 40 horse Briggs motor. Stromberg carb on it. The primary drive is a CVT, so it's automatic, no gears. 330 Avon in the rear, and a leaf spring, so it's a soft tail, and it's a Springer front end. And the problem I'm having this many years later is the steering neck bearings completely seized up, rusty bearings. Got wet at some point. I did not use a seal on them. Have a replacement kit, and we're going to try and adapt some seals into this completely custom handmade one-of-one fork. Only has a lower crown, doesn't have an upper crown. There's no triple trees on the top. Resembles a bicycle. So we're going to go ahead and grind this bearing off and start fitting all the new hardware. All right, here's the fork assembly. Custom handmade one-piece Springer. Uses a key slot
to engage the handlebars. And down here we can see the destroyed bearing. It was super crunchy when you tried to turn the wheel. So we just got to grind this this lower race down to the point where it'll split, and it should slide off. Then we clean up the shaft a bit and slide all the new parts on, give it a test fit. We're also going to have to pound in some new races inside the steering neck. Alright, we should be able to get the cage off now with a little bit of work. There we go. All the rollers in the cage. Now we just need to split this inner race. Alright, so got a good bit of it ground away. So we'll just kind of on the thin spot give it a good shot with the cold chisel. And it's loose. Alright, now we just got to work the race off. Just kind of go side to side, work it up. The rough thing is this entire thing is powder coated white, so I'm doing my darndest to not damage existing powder coating. Okay, so I've hammered it up to probably halfway off the steering shaft. Maybe grab a rag and see if, oh yeah, just pops right off. There's the bearing, inner race. Now I'm pretty sure what holds this entire assembly together, the handlebars, like I said, the handlebars have a keyed slot right here, and the handlebars mate with that. And then inside here there's a threaded hole, and there's a stud that sticks out, and a huge machined wing nut that holds the whole assembly together. In all my pounding to try and get this thing out, because it was so seized up with rust, I damaged the threaded hole. So we're going to need to go ahead and run a tap down through that and clean that back up before we try and put this back together. It's here's the stud. You see some of the rust damage on that stud. Clean on the top though. And that is half fine thread, so half 20. I've got a tap right here, ready to go. Now to find the actual start of the hole is another story. I'm supposed to be a machinist. Well, it looks about right. I've got a tiny tap handle on here, and it's not taking a tremendous amount of force. I think we're good. Just feels like it's cleaning and not cutting, which is a good thing. I think that's the bottom right there. Go ahead and check our stud. Threads right in. All right. A little bit of cleaning and a little bit of hand file just to put a couple of little tiny nicks in the shaft down here. The nut for the grinder was rubbing a little bit, so just clean that up a little bit, and we'll see if our bearings fit. Okay, we've got the shaft pretty well cleaned up, so now we're going to go and see if the bearings will fit. And I'm going with an all balls racing kit from JP Cycles. Made in India. It's not exactly Timken, but the cool thing is that it did come with the Harley type seals. So we'll go ahead and bust open a bearing and see if it fits. Nice sharp knife from Logicraft, lcrft.com. One of my good friends. I got that from him at SolidWorks World. So, bearing and race. Supposed to be the right part. Of course, the race goes in the steering neck. And the bearing should slip on the steering shaft. Money. Got a little chunky right there. It hits, so we got to keep cleaning. Little burr there, probably from the grinding process. Clean that up so it slides on real nice. Here you can see the steering stop. And particularly in this bike with these huge banana bars, you'll see later, that's important because the bars would hit your body and be really uncomfortable. Sometimes we use them to keep the bars from hitting the tank as well. But that's the steering stop, and of course there's a recess inside the neck that that adapts to, or that interfaces with. All right, so if you've never seen how these bearings and seals are intended to work, basically seal goes on first, and then the cone bearing slides down the steering neck, and then it interfaces with the race that's already up in the neck. And when you tighten her down, it gives you a nice tight seal. Holds all the grease in. So that should help keep a lot of this Hawaii rain out of my steering neck and killing my bearings in the future. Now it did last 9 years here, so Not too bad, well greased. Here you can see up inside the bottom steering neck bearing area, that little recess that works with the steering limiter. Now we're just going to take the race, and I like to just drive it up in there. And I've got a whole old set of seal drivers, and generally there's this one that I like to use. Just pound that up in there nice and square. It's got a seat. There's an edge right there that it bottoms out against, that I machined into the steering neck. There we go, got a nice good start on it. Okay, so the keyway that clocks the handlebars in position is a bit crusty, so we'll go ahead and take a file to that, get some of that off. You don't want to remove a lot of metal, we just want to clean up some of the rust. Okay, now we'll check for fit. Here's the steering shaft. Fits good. So you can see the key in the shaft now. That slot had closed up a little bit from beating on this, trying to get it to release with those rusty bearings. So I just took a file to it, and now she fits pretty good. Put a top race in this thing, and this should be ready to go back together. So that's about all we got time for tonight. I can only work on this after work. So there's going to be a lot more to come. We're going to have to clean everything up, repolish things, and rebuild the light, rerun all the controls. It's got hidden throttle, internal throttle. Yeah, needs a lot of work. It's been neglected for a while, so we'll go ahead and clean this thing up and take you on the journey of what it takes to put this thing back together piece by piece. It will almost be like a build journal. So yeah, that's all we got time for tonight.